skip it. See it or skip it. See it or skip it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to a new episode of See It or Skip It, where we're going to be talking about Daredevil, Born Again, a new revamped season of Daredevil, and we're talking about Mickey 17. Thank you everybody for joining us. I'm your host Patrick, and with me today is another fellow critic of the Utah Film Critics Association, Richard Bonaduce. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for inviting me.
I see you're dressed clad in the Daredevil outfits.
Daredevil socks, yeah.
We've got the Daredevil socks, we've got the shirt, we've got everything that you need, right?
Well, everything that I can show you.
Well, let's jump into Daredevil first.
Okay.
So this is from Marvel. This is a continuation of the Daredevil series that we've seen from Netflix. There's a big controversy, well, not controversy, but history with this character. He was first with Netflix. They had 3 seasons and then canceled it abruptly, and really shocked everybody that loved the show. Then it ended up being maybe rebooted by Disney once they reacquired the rights, and Marvel might have been doing it.
Yeah.
Then suddenly, Spider-Man No Way Home, we see the return of Charlie Cox, who plays Matt Murdock as Daredevil, and he's in the MCU.
Yep.
He shows up in She-Hulk. Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, who's probably one of the most menacing villains in the MCU, is now returning. We have him in Hawkeye, we have him in Echo, and the story continues on from the Netflix stories. So, Richard, tell me, what did you think about these first 2 episodes that are on Disney Plus now?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy that they're even happening because, again, we weren't even sure what was going on. And I'm surprised. I'm a huge Daredevil fan. I have heard a lot of flack online about these things, and I will agree with some of it in that there's a lot of talking going on for an action comic book sort of treatment, right? They're setting up a lot of stuff. And what I would say to you, if you're a Daredevil fan, you're going to watch it anyway, right? But if you're even a mild comic book fan, I think you should see it. It is good, but give it some time. You know, they're working on some things. They're building a universe here. They're continuing one from Netflix, as you mentioned, but they have to take it in their own direction. And there are so many of our beloved franchises and properties that didn't seem like they would be that great in the first couple episodes. Star Trek: The Next Generation took 2 seasons to get going. Give it a chance. There is a lot of talky, but when the action comes, it's pretty good, except for some of the CGI's a touch rubbery here and there.
The big question is, can you watch this season on its own and not have to go back and watch 3 seasons of Daredevil?
I think that's a good question, and I would say you might have to watch them.
This new series, it's directed by Matt Corman and Chris Ord. We have the returning cast, but in a lot of ways, in my opinion, this is 2 separate worlds that Daredevil is kind of in the middle of. We have the previous stories that he had with Deborah Ann Wool, with Foggy, with Karen Page, and then we have this new continuation into the Disney universe. I don't know whether they've blended it well just yet. These first 2 episodes, again, like you said, are a lot of setup. We're talking about Kingpin possibly becoming the mayor of the city, Daredevil possibly hanging up the cowl. There's a lot of interesting threads that are starting to be unwoven. And I've seen the whole season. We're not spoiling anything in this, but I can tell you, wait for it. Once it gets to the final 3 episodes, you're going to be like, baby, I missed you so much, Daredevil. Please, thank you so much for bringing us back to this world.
Well, even at the end of the 2 episodes that are out, that's when I went, there's my Daredevil. At the very end, like he shows up. But yeah, give it some time. Definitely see it, but just give it time to develop.
So that's a see it. Well, let's move on to Mickey 17. Now, if I could clone myself and watch Daredevil while streaming at home and go to the theaters to watch Mickey 17, boy, I wish that technology existed. Bong Joon-ho is back. And this is from the Oscar-winning director, Parasite in 2020. I can't believe it's been that long since Parasite won.
Again, more years in between properties for people,
Yep, and now returning is Robert Pattinson to the big screen. It's been a while since, you know, with the Batman. Hopefully the Batman 2 is coming out soon. But he's playing 2 versions of himself, maybe a few versions of himself.
Like 17 versions of himself.
Based on the novel Mickey 7. These were kind of being made at the same time, the novel and Bong Joon-ho's screenplay for it. Now, you had a chance to see it. What did you think? What did you think?
First of all, I was excited to see it just from the trailer. So if you see it and like the trailer, I think you'll be interested in the movie. It doesn't disappoint.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, first of all, it's set in the future. Near distant future, and the technology exists to basically 3D print people. But on Earth, there are a lot of problems with it politically, religiously, and they say, okay, no. But space is this sort of, hey, what happens in space stays in space. So they need people to do risky missions in space, and no one wants to do them. So instead, you can volunteer as an expendable, and if something happens to me, that's okay. My memories are kept. I am just 3D printed, my memories are reloaded, and I'm rich too.
You're essentially a human lab rat that
Yeah.
can be used to get vaccines, prevent diseases. Basically, just like there might be a monster down there. Let's send Mickey because we can reprint him later.
And the very real example in the movie, they're trying to go to this other planet and populate it. There's a virus on the planet. They don't know how to cope with it. So they send Mickey down there that gets sick, and then they test him like a half dozen times. This guy dies from this virus until they figure out how to cure it.
He's sent on this mission by these two very rich, wealthy people, played by Toni Collette and Mark Ruffalo, with veneers that would give you nightmares in in all of your dreams.
Yes.
Well,
we should talk like that for the rest of the
When you talk like Mark Ruffalo.
Very difficult to do it.
Oh boy, this
He had some fun
this
with
is
it.
already going downhill. Mark Ruffalo, as an actor, I think he's great. I loved him in Poor Things. The turn of him being kind of a scumbag in a lot of ways was fantastic. Not so much here. I think the veneers were a problem. I think he just could not get past those. It was a distraction for me. And I don't know. I think we're in the realm of television and media now where we're getting a lot of Trump parallels to characters.
Oh, for sure.
And you certainly see that with Mark Ruffalo's character here. I don't know how many more times I can see it, though, where they do this.
And even earlier, there was a lot of that with Kingpin, et cetera.
Exactly.
There's a lot of it in almost everything I'm seeing. I do think that years from now, people like us will be sitting back and critiquing the political, social ramifications of all the parallels of all these movies during this time. And I remember growing up, every movie was about Vietnam. And now every movie is about this in some way.
Right.
And I didn't mind the veneers. It might have been the skin color or the hair. All of it is, he's a walking caricature, really.
Right. Well, and Bong Joon-ho, he really hates rich people. Like, if there's one thing every movie, from Snowpiercer to Okja to Parasite, has really nailed down, is Bong Joon-ho does not like rich people. I was fascinated by the story. I don't think it was explored quite the way I had hoped it could be. There's some characters that show up and just fall away. You don't see him again until the very end. There's certain aspects of both characters that Robert Pattinson is playing that I wish could have been explored more, but it's still a fun time. And these are one of those movies where I would rather go and watch a movie that might not work in some places, but be creative and inspiring and be really unique over just your generic Kraven the Hunter 3.
Right.
You know? Heaven forbid if we get a third or a second from that. So what do you think? Is this a see it or a skip it?
I think it's a see it, keeping that, excuse me, in mind. Because like you, I went in and went, oh, this is interesting. I like it. They're taking swings. They aren't quite hitting everything. But at the same time, I couldn't guess where it was going. Because right when I went, this is going to do this standard thing. Oh, no, it didn't. And it did some other things that I didn't think it would do. I was surprised it couldn't explore some of those things because it is like 2.5 hours long. You'd think they could explore that stuff. But there's so much in there, especially near the end. I think the end gets a little overloaded, but I still think it's worth seeing, just maybe not rushing out right now. You know,
we have a category for that. There's the see it later.
See it later. So. I would see it. I saw it in IMAX. It looked great. But at the same time, I really liked it for the first hour and a half. And the final hour, I was sort of going, wow, they're squeezing a lot in here. And I don't know if they're doing it well. But it's still a see it for me.
I still think it's a see it too. And definitely go out and see it in theaters on the biggest screen you can. It is rated R. And Daredevil Born Again, we should mention, is TVMA. So if you have kids that are like, I'm going to watch this thing, maybe wait or check it out first.
The violence, I think, will ramp up, but the language is there and now. Not that it's all over the place, but it's above a PG-13 line, I'd say.
Right. Well, and I think that kind of ties with both of these films. Like, they both have a level of violence that you're like,
Yeah, some of the stuff in Mickey, I went, oh, God, because the way that he sort of dies or is experimented on, and that's part of the movie, too, is that we do see certain kinds of people as expendable.
Yep.
Even if they're not called that, even if they can't be 3D printed, and the way we treat them. So,
right.
yeah.
Well, are you the original or are you the copy?
And do we care?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the copy have more rights, or does the original have more rights? Very interesting.
Yep.
The last film, I know you hadn't seen this one, but I just want to call this out. This is also a See It. It's On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. This is from A24. We love A24.
I love A24.
They always make some of the most creative pieces, and even if it's not the best, I'm very excited to watch it.
Talk about taking risks and taking some swings. Sometimes, hey.
Yep. This is a very dark story, but has some weird comedic elements throughout. Starring Susan Chardy, they discover their uncle has died in the middle of the road, and now we're having to deal with both his wife's side of the family and his side of the family, figuring out what to do after the fact of him dying. There's stuff that gets revealed about him afterwards that kind of rattles the family dynamics a lot. But the acting is incredible. This is one that if you're looking for something independent, you want to go to the Broadway theater, feel very A24-y, you know, that might be a verb.
Astute.
If you want to A24 down the block over to Broadway, you'll have a pretty good time with it. So I'm giving it a See It.
Okay, so as a person who hasn't seen it, is it one of these A24s that's like, so wackadoo out there, I don't even know what's going on? Or is it more of one of these concentrated dramas that's just really good?
Concentrated drama, absolutely.
Okay.
The jarring parts are just kind of seeing the cultural differences of how a family in America would handle this versus how a family in South Africa would handle this. Very different
Right.
in the traditions and things that come into play with it. Very interesting watch.
Okay, well, you've sold me then.
Well, in that case, let's wrap this up. Thank you again, everybody, for watching. Richard, where can the people find you?
Prison. No. On iHeartRadio 106.7 with Hooker and DB in the mornings on Friday mornings between like 8 and 9.
Richard, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Make sure you check out See It or Skip It on abc4.com. Click the shows tab and See It or Skip It. You'll find all of our interviews and reviews. Next week, we're going to be talking with the voice actors for Looney Tunes, The Day the Earth Blew Up. I'm very excited for that. Until then, we'll see you at the next review.
See it or skip it. 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 See it or skip it.